Let's welcome in Fox Sports College basketball insider Evan Daniels to help preview Big East play as we enter conference play here at the end of December. Evan, first of all, happy holidays and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, man. Thanks for having me.
Merry Christmas to you, too. Let's start at the top. Villanova, #1, undefeated. When you look at the Wildcats, what does stand out about this particular team? What makes them so good?
Well, I think they have so many pieces, and when you look up the makeup and you look at it, the makeup of a really good basketball team, most of them have a really good point guard. They have that in Jalen Brunson. They've got an emerging star in Mikal Bridges, a guy averaging over 17 points a game. He's 6'7", he's long, he's athletic, and now he's shooting the ball at a high level. Then you look in the post, and they've got a guy they can throw the ball into and say, go get me a basket. Mm-hmm. And Amari Spillman brings so much versatility, and he's different than what Villanova has had in their big men as of late. And then once you get past that, they've got key reserves and guys that can really chip in and help. So I love the makeup of this team, and they appear to be one of the best teams in the country.
So going off of that, when you look at a Duke, a Michigan State, where do they stack up? Are they the favorites right now to win the national championship?
Well, they're sitting at #1 in the AP poll, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're the favorite, but they're certainly among the favorites. I think we're too early into the season to say they're definitively the favorite. But you mentioned the other two that I really like, Michigan State and Duke. But I think it's early. We're only a third through the season, but I think you could certainly make a case that Villanova is certainly playing like the best team in the country and could end the season as the best team in the country. So I really like the makeup of this team. I think they're one of the best teams in the country, and I think they're primed for a big run once we get to March.
Well, as we enter Big East Conference play, the Wildcats certainly #1 in the Big East Conference. Take me through 2 through 6. Where do the teams fall after the Wildcats in your eyes right now?
Well, that's where it gets interesting, and I thought Xavier heading in to the season was probably #2, and that's where I would slot them. Mm-hmm. Seton Hall has been very good at times. Had that nice road win over Louisville early in the season. Their guard play, Desi Rodriguez, Angel Delgado, I like that group. I would probably go with them 3, and this is where it really gets tricky for me.
Does.
Between St. John's and Creighton and Marquette, and you have to think that Providence, even though they've had some slip-ups, slides up that list. I've been pretty impressed with what St. John's has done so far. So I think that's where it gets tricky, really, once you get to 4 to 7 or 8. But that's probably the order I would have it right now.
Okay, sounds good to me. It'll all play out over the next couple of months, as you know. Do you have a biggest surprise of the conference so far this season?
Well, if we're talking teams, I'd probably go with Creighton. They're 10-2 entering Big East play, and they've done a tremendous job on the offensive end. They're shooting nearly 40% from 3. They have wins over Northwestern, UCLA, Nebraska. Marcus Foster has been tremendous, almost 20 points a game, shooting 44% from 3. If we're talking teams, I would go with Creighton maybe. If we're talking players in the league, and I'm not necessarily surprised because I had him as a 5-star prospect back in the day, but Justin Simon at St. John's has been tremendous for those guys. He brings so much to the table, a lot of stuff, not necessarily points driven. He gets the assist, he goes and grabs boards, he impacts the game on the defensive end. So I think heading into league play, those are 2 things that probably stick out in my eyes.
Simon 1 assist away from a triple-double against St. Joe's to end non-conference play for St. John's. They finished the non-conference with 10 wins. You mentioned Creighton is a team that surprised you. They've impressed me too, specifically the Blue Jays freshmen. How has Greg McDermott been able to bring these guys in and make them have an immediate impact on this program?
Well, Mitch Ballock's a guy that heading in and when they recruited him has been one of the more highly regarded prospects that they've recruited. He was a top 50, top 60 type player, a kid that's always been known for his ability to shoot, his ability to score. Him and Tyshawn Alexander have given a nice jolt to that program. They've both had some really good games. Ballock averaging 9 points a game, 37% from 3. Tyshawn Alexander just under that with 2.5 assists, shooting 37% from 3. those two guys are really good players, and I think they've been really good early on, and as their careers develop, they're going to be even better. These two are going to be stars down the road for that Creighton basketball team, and they've had a big impact, as you mentioned.
Let's stick with the freshman storylines for the Big East heading into conference play. You came on shoot around before the season started and told us, watch out for Najee Marshall at Xavier. He is going to make an immediate impact. He has, but he almost doesn't have to step up totally because of the seniors they have with Blewett and McCura. Do you see that he'll continue to get more and more playing time as we head into conference play and continue to establish himself in Cincinnati?
Oh, for sure. I think the Najee Marshall that we're seeing right now is a really good version of Najee Marshall, but I think he's going to continue to grow and continue to get better. And as you know, sometimes it takes freshmen a little time to develop and to adjust to the speed of the game and the physicality of the college game. And I think that's an area that Najee excels at. He's a tough, physical, defensive-minded, competitive kid, and they haven't needed him as a scorer. They've got guys on the wings like Trayvon Blewett and J.P. McCure that are going to do that. And Trayvon's averaging more than 20 points a game. He's shooting the cover off the ball. Those guys are going to score. Najee's going to come in and grab rebounds and make hustle plays and put back misses and compete on the defensive end. He's got a ways to go on that end, but I think he has so much potential as a multi-positional defender, and I think by the time his career ends at Xavier, he's going to be one of the best defenders in the league.
Evan, you broke the story. DePaul getting an early Christmas gift in the form of a transfer from New Zealand. Flynn Cameron, a much-needed point guard for the Blue Demons. What can you tell us about this developing story?
Yeah, Flynn Cameron opted last night to not only commit to DePaul, but he is going to enroll at the semester break. Now, it's unclear if he's going to play this season or redshirt this season. He wouldn't be eligible until early January if he opts to play. That would not surprise me at all if he does. This is a kid, he's a native of New Zealand. He's been living in Australia. He played for the New Zealand under-18 team in the Oceania Championship over the summer. I've had an opportunity to watch him play a couple times. He's got good size at 6'3". He's tough. He plays at a good pace. He's got good vision. I really like his ability to run a basketball team. He can pass and distribute the ball. So Flynn Cameron, he's a good pickup, especially mid-year. DePaul needed to add a point guard to their roster, and they're getting a kid from the international waters that knows how to run a basketball team. And I've been impressed with his feel for that point guard position.
And Flynn Cameron choosing the Blue Demons over the likes of Oklahoma, Louisville, St. Mary's. Why did he choose DePaul?
He told me that it was relationship driven. He has a strong relationship with DePaul assistant coach Shane Hireman. But he also really liked his visit. He visited DePaul when they played Northwestern last week, and he told me that he saw a need for him. He said that when he was watching the game, he could see how maybe he could be a difference maker for that team, and they had a need for him. And I think that factored into his decision making.
As always, Evan Daniels breaking the news in the Big East and all around the college basketball landscape. Before we let you go, one last question. It's a tight race this year for Player of the Year. I'm struggling to come up with the guy going into conference play. Give us your prediction and then give us, I guess, your list of 4 or 5 guys that are fighting for it.
So I'm going to stick with who I picked in the preseason, and that was Trayvon Blewett. Okay. I think he's playing at a really high level, more than 20 points a game, 44% from three, shooting the cover off it, as I mentioned. I just think he's a scorer. He's so good. I was at the Xavier-Cincinnati game. He had a big-time performance with a hurt back, and he powered through and helped Xavier get a big win over Cincinnati. Now, I certainly wouldn't fault anyone for going the Jalen Brunson route or some of these other guys. I think Jalen has been really good. He's leading the #1 team in the country. He's scoring it efficiently. He's shooting the ball really well. He's distributing and setting up guys on his team. He's a leader. I'm going to go with Trayvon Blewett, but I certainly think Jalen Brunson's right there on his heels.
Evan, as always, we appreciate the time. Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you in the new year.
Hey, thanks for having me.